I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. We begin in Venezuela, where late Monday evening, President Nicolás Maduro and Communications Minister Jorge Rodriguez held a press conference in which Maduro said that he would use all possible mechanisms to sue Colombia in order to seek compensation for all of the social support that Venezuela has provided for more than 5 million Colombian citizens. Maduro said that Venezuela knows migration well because it receives people from other countries in high numbers. He said Venezuela is the country with the second highest number of migrants in South America.
I have approved this idea of putting forth an internal demand to request compensation for the Colombian government for the 5.6 million of Colombians who are living here.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza met the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights on Monday. Michelle Bachelet and Jorge Arreaza agreed to work on new cooperation agreements that they were set to discuss the Venezuelan migration flow in Latin America. The new High Commissioner had previously said she was concerned about the situation that has provoked tensions in the region.
Expert Alfred de Sayas says the efficient continuation of Venezuela's model guarantees respect for human rights, despite the economic blockades and media campaigns against it. De Sayas says, and I quote, "I witnessed elimination of illiteracy, free education from elementary school to college, extreme poverty reduction programs, free housing for the most vulnerable sectors or homeless people, gradual elimination of privileges and discrimination, and free quality health care for everyone." De Sayas confirms a multiform, integral aggression against Venezuela's economy caused by the so-called sanctions, which are not so, because the United States is not in the moral position to sanction anyone. These are repressive, unilateral measures, out of the framework of international public law, meant to force a change of regime.
And the U.S. human rights activist Ajamu Baraka has criticized his country's interference in Venezuela and other countries, saying the U.S. uses the pretext of humanitarian aid. On Twitter, Baraka said there are few nations that can preach to other nations about human rights and democracy, but the only nation that can never teach anyone is the United States of America. We need human rights and real democracy in the U.S. Ask the winners of reality on human rights. Now to Argentina, where a member of Mauricio Macri's government may be involved in an embezzlement scandal. The current head of the cabinet, Marcos Peña, is being named in an investigation by Argentine media. He is accused of using public funds to finance Macri's 2015 campaign. The report went through at least 4,000 emails as part of this investigation. And President Macri not only has to face discontent in the streets over his austerity policies, he is now struggling to win support from governors as they face a debate in Congress to approve the country's budget. Let's hear from our correspondent Edgardo Esteban in Buenos Aires.
It's a busy week for Macri. He also has to keep markets at ease. And now he has to face the debate on the budget that will take place in Congress in the coming days. He's been meeting with governors to obtain their support for this debate. Now he also has to fight the general strike called for September 25. He's trying to negotiate an agreement with some of the workers' union that will take part. The State Workers' Union will protest the reduction of 23 ministries that have become 10. They also say they expect 37,000 state workers to be laid off due to austerity policies by the end of the year. On top of that, the teachers have also organized a general strike. It's turning out to be a crucial week for Argentinians.
That was Edgardo Esteban from Argentina. And we continue in this country. A memorial has been held to pay tribute to the victims of clandestine abortions. This comes 1 month after the Senate rejected a bill to legalize abortion. The group remembered 3 women who have died this month They also remembered 19-year-old Ana Maria Acevedo, who was denied an abortion in Santa Fe despite being raped. They say women like Ana Maria are the real victims of last month's vote. Now to Colombia, where another social leader was killed. Now over 160 activists have been killed in the country this year alone. 25-year-old social leader Lady Correa Valle was found dead after she went missing on Wednesday. She was the secretary for her village community action board. Social movements have called for the protection of social leaders in Colombia so that the peace process can be fully implemented. Colombia's High Commissioner for Peace has said an operation is underway for the release of 6 people held by the National Liberation Army. Miguel Ceballos said that he knows, quote, the liberation is taking place with the invaluable support of the Catholic Church and the Ombudsman Office. According to the government, the ELN has at least 17 people captive. President Iván Duque says his government will only renew peace talks with the armed group once all its captives are freed. And members of the ELN have insisted they want to find a political solution to this conflict. The armed group says it is committed to continuing with the peace talks started by the previous government. They also say that the military presence is the main obstacle to the release of those captives. The Communist Party of Uruguay has decided to back the Secretary General of the Construction Union, Oscar Andrade, as its pre-candidate for president. The Central Committee of the party says it believes that Andrade's candidacy will breathe new life into the social base of the Broad Front. The governing front will be seeking a 4th term in government in 2019. The other pre-candidates are Carolina Cose, the Minister of Industry, and Daniel Martinez, who seems to be the favorite so far.
It is a great responsibility because you have to be up to par. Although what matters is to organize and not who is the leader. We have to avoid conflicts because the left will have a huge challenge in few months. We need to be able to be clarity to the political, ideological and programmatic battle, which is what people will decide on in 2019.
The lawyers of former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva will ask the Supreme Court for an extension to name a substitute presidential candidate. Lula's legal team says the UN has reaffirmed his political rights should be respected. They want to present this recommendation in court.
At the moment, we are leaving the Federal Police Headquarters, and we have received on our phones the UN General Committee's new decision, reaffirming Lula's candidacy must be ensured by all Brazilian authorities, both judicial, legislative, and executive.
Meanwhile, hundreds of supporters of Lula are camping outside the prison in Curitiba, where he's been held. They say they will remain there until their leader is released. The former president has communicated with them via messages and letters. The demonstrators say he often asks them to sing for him.
Our goal with this vigil is to show solidarity with Lula, to send him our positive energies of solidarity so that he remains strong.
Lula is the only one I can trust because I know he does good things for the poor black people who work.
Coming up, more stories. We'll be back.
In a world infested by inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice, the American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deepening into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality. We defend the truth. It's a hard job, but we are not alone. We count on a new ally.
The ruling world order has always subjugated the masses. But who are the actors behind every move? What are their real interests? We analyze every move on Critical Move. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The people affected by Chevron's environmental disaster in Ecuador have rejected the ruling in The Hague, which found the company not at fault. Ecuadorian courts had already ruled in favor of the communities and in favor of pushing the state to guarantee respect for human rights.
On the 6th of September, the Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled in favor of the company Chevron and declared Ecuador guilty of violating a bilateral investment treaty. The people affected by Chevron have since announced they will continue with their struggle, supported by several environmental and social organizations who also reject the ruling.
As an indigenous people, are worried and are calling on the whole country to resist, because we have been fighting for 25 years and we can't allow the state to interfere and negotiate in our name.
It's a shame to see that through the legal actions of the state, the work we have been doing for 25 years could be reduced to nothing.
The Ecuadorian government says they will appeal the Hague's ruling and they will defend the rights of the affected communities. The community's defense team has said that it is inadmissible for a court of arbitration to order a state to annul a verdict in a trial involving private individuals which has been ratified.
The Ecuadorian government has an obligation to defend our rights and to demand that the arbitration award be overturned. They should start an international campaign with the peoples of the world to change the game, and they should do it now.
For some analysts, this ruling could further harm communities. They also question the announcement of the Ecuadorian General Attorney, who made the ruling public and who criticized the judicial system of Ecuador.
One of the decisions states that Ecuador must commit to not allowing the implementation of the earlier judgments won by those affected. This decision means not enforcing what the courts decided, and that is obviously terrible for the communities, because it leaves them defenseless and unable to obtain what they want in those trials.
For the people affected by Chevron, this ruling revives bilateral investment treaties for the supposed protection of investment, which in fact aim to protect the transnationals. They also announced they will continue with their struggle and also will go to international courts in order to defend their rights. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
Bolivia's largest multi-megawatt solar park is now operating. It was inaugurated by President Evo Morales over the weekend. The solar power plant in Uyuni has the capacity to generate 60 megawatts. That's enough to supply half of the energy that the population living in the region needs. The government invested around $62 million in this project. With these and other projects of power, the country is generating more energy than required and plans to export the surplus production.
And now, at maximum capacity, we have 1,500 megawatts of domestic demand, but we are generating 2,100 megawatts. We have an excess of energy. A moment ago, our energy minister was saying that we're getting prepared to export, and we're installing the power supply from Bolivia to Argentina. Hopefully, we will have time so that next year we can be exporting 100 megawatts to Argentina.
The Supreme Court of Justice of Panama has rejected a bail request by the defense team of former President Ricardo Martinelli. Martinelli's defense team alleged a deteriorating health condition for this request. The Supreme Court took to Twitter to announce the decision. Martinelli was president of Panama from 2009 to 2014 and is accused of embezzling and espionage. Caribbean countries are on alert as Hurricane Isaac approaches the area. The National Hurricane Center says after weakening somewhat, Isaac is expected to return to hurricane strength in the coming hours. It is heading towards the Lesser Antilles and is then expected to cross the eastern Caribbean Sea. Meanwhile, Florence has been upgraded to a Category 4 hurricane over the Atlantic. It could make landfall along the east coast of the United States, especially North Carolina, on Thursday. Warnings have already gone out about life-threatening storm beginning on Tuesday. The U.S. administration has closed down the Palestinian mission in Washington, D.C. The Palestine Liberation Organization says this move is part of a dangerous escalation of tensions. U.S. President Donald Trump also cut fundings to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Trump's goal may be to force the Palestinian leadership to negotiate a plan for Middle East peace, which he calls the ultimate deal.
The U.S. administration decision to protect Israel from war crimes and crimes against humanity that Israel is committing in the occupied Palestinian territories, and to dismantle the system of international law and the mechanisms of international law.
The United States has threatened to arrest and sanction international criminal court judges. This if they charge any U.S. citizen who served in Afghanistan with war crimes. National Security Advisor John Bolton made the announcement referring to the ICC investigation into alleged war crimes. The probe is due to begin soon. Bolton also called the Hague-based court unaccountable and illegitimate. He added that, quote, if the ICC comes after the U.S., Israel, and other U.S. allies, we will not sit quietly.
We will ban its judges and prosecutors from entering the United States. We will sanction their funds in the U.S. financial system, and we will prosecute them in the U.S. criminal system. We will do the same for any company or state that assists an ICC investigation of Americans.
And U.S. President Trump has received a letter from the President of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, known as North Korea, according to the White House. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said the letter was sent with the intention of arranging to meet for a second time. The White House said the letter Donald Trump got from Kim Jong-un was very warm and won't be disclosed fully unless the North Korean leader gives his permission. Dominicans are learning about their cultural heritage with the help of an event known as the Long Night in the museums. This year's edition was inspired by youth and folklore.
The Long Night in the Museums event is promoting arts and culture once again in the country.
All the museums are open until midnight. We have different activities in every floor, with music, living statues, and theaters. This is a cultural night.
People can also take guided tours to the historical places and enjoy concerts, workshops, dance presentations, and exhibitions.
We have used the long night at the museums event to encourage people to visit their museums. Most of the times, our visitors are students and tourists. But this event brings different audiences to the museums.
This year's edition was inspired in the youth and the World Day of Folklore.
We learned about traditional instruments and their importance in Dominican culture. People from other countries can also value the story of our country.
The event was launched 10 years ago, but now people can enjoy it 4 times a year. This is an invitation to discover the beauty of the Dominican Republic and its rich heritage.
We'll take one last short break, but stay with us.